You only need to know me. I will be the one.
We began last chapter with a tease of the Ancient Kingdom, that Egghead Island's futuristic technology comes from the past, and so the present in many ways is a post-apocalyptic world. A dark age full of lost, forgotten knowledge. Only embers remain, of a time that came before the one Luffy and his crew are currently in. And how Vegapunk knows all of this is explained, and in this video we'll be going over not just chapter 1066, but some wild theories that come from it. So I want to just briefly skip ahead and suggest Oda has outdone himself. Vegapunk, as we see from his flashback, is the wildest looking character in One Piece. I don't know if he's from some special race we don't yet know about, or if he is just so smart that Oda is portraying his intelligence this way, via an unusually large head. I don't know if anyone has done this before, it's not really my style of content, but I'd love to see a list of the most ridiculous looking characters Oda has drawn. In terms of top 5, Vegapunk is definitely up there. But the chapter is titled The Will of Ohara, and for good reason given what we learn, and I do think this might connect to the will of the Ancient Kingdom and the will of D generally in a way. The road poneglyphs of the Ancient Kingdom that were not destroyed, and the books of Ohara that we find out survived this chapter and contributed to Vegapunk's tremendous knowledge of the world and its past. One such knowledge includes the existence of an ancient kingdom in the past, a futuristic city based on a theory by the archaeologists or scholars of Ohara and Professor Clover. Based on the translation that I read, there appears to be some connection between the manufacture date of the technology, the time when some of the machines seen on Egghead Island were built, and the time that the ancient kingdom existed, as well as the Void Century. I just want to point out as well that just like Luffy's dream being revealed only now despite the amount of time Luffy has spent with his crew, it's strange that Robin is only really delving into her past and sharing it with the crew now. It's as if the Straw Hats don't have a normal relationship you'd expect from people with very deep bonds, who know a lot about each other's past experiences, as if they only know of each other's present selves. Then again, maybe most friendships in real life are like this, somewhat superficial but not in a bad way. People don't always share everything about themselves, I guess that's kind of true. For us readers and the Straw Hats too. It's understandable actually that Robin said so little given how traumatic that experience must have been for her as a child. But Nami questions Robin about her past as Shaka Vegapunk continues to discuss Ohara and its destruction from the Buster Call. That they have learned so much, which ties into a theory I've had about Vegapunk having learned too much and now the government will do to him what they did to Professor Clover. Apparently the Ancient Kingdom lost a war to the 20 or so kingdoms that are currently aligned with the world government and celestial dragons. It would seem the name of the Ancient Kingdom has been erased from history, just like the original name of Luffy's Devil Fruit was erased from history by the world government. And we find out this chapter the Ancient Kingdom's existence was erased from history to ensure no one would ever continue the ideology of that kingdom. And I believe this ideology was one of such reckless freedom it led to the destruction of the world. Which ties into the questions as to the true history that Rayleigh said Robin will have to interpret for herself, and the questions Monkey D. Dragon even said to raise, to question the world. And Luffy as a warrior of freedom, the return of Joy Boy. And whether the world government and Gorosei are really the bad guys or just practical political leaders making hard political decisions like every government around the world does. As I pointed out in my last 2 videos you should watch to understand just why the question of freedom is pivotal to Oda's story and final years of One Piece serialization. The fights between Luffy and Blackbeard as well as Luffy and Imu, Luffy and Blackbeard, freedom versus chaos or anarchy. Chaos and anarchy may be destroying the world, which leads to a need to restrict the freedoms of men. And so the modern world's response is a dystopian one, slavery. Luffy versus the world's current government and King Imu. But yet to better understand my ideas of Joy Boy Luffy versus Sad Boy Blackbeard, as well as Dragon versus Imu, check out these 2 videos on the screen when you're done with this one, and I'll link the Dragon video at the end of this. We also get confirmation that the people that knew about the Ancient Kingdom's existence, who studied it and discovered it, the scholars of Ohara, are dead, except for Nico Robin. Now it's funny how Oda addresses a long-standing response to the need for governments to protect their secrets, state secrets, matters of national security as they are deemed. As Vegapunk says to Robin, if the government destroyed Ohara, if the history of Ohara and what its scholars learned was erased because of this theory, that means the government has acknowledged that the theory is true. And I would also apply this to the Ancient Kingdom in God Valley. which is strange because Rox D. Xebec, the taboo pirate, chasing after taboo secrets with the goal of becoming king of the world. World domination, it is alleged by the government. Just like Vegapunk reveals to us that the world government labeled the Scholars of Ohara as an evil group of researchers plotting to take over the world. A strange connection then between the label of Rox D. Xebec and the labeling of Ohara. What was Rox's ambition or dream? What interest did he have in an island, God Valley, that the government decided to erase? We then find out that Vegapunk was an old acquaintance or a friend of Professor Clover, and we find out that Clover is just as legendary as Kaido in his own way. Both men repeatedly captured and imprisoned by the Navy, it would seem. Kaido the world's strongest creature, Clover the world's best archaeologist, and we then find out that the will of Ohara lives on. Just like the immortal stones, the poneglyphs that cannot be destroyed, the physical manifestation of inherited will. As Vegapunk says, he visited the island of Ohara after it was destroyed and some of the books tossed into the lake were salvaged. And the beauty of the juxtaposition of the salvaged books due to the negligence of the Marines and government officials, with the survival of Nico Robin, just paper and a small child, is another wonder of Oda's writing, that even small acts of defiance by small things can grow to defy, fight, and even change the world. The power of a seed that is planted, only to blossom later on, and so inherited will, of the ancient kingdom and now Ohara. From what we learn, it seems that the theory that some survived the Buster Call on Ohara is true, specifically Jaguar D. Saul, which ties into what Aokiji said to Nico Robin after the arc where Luffy declares war on the world government and his lobby. How Aokiji alluded to Ohara still being alive through an inheritance of will passed down over time. And we now know that Jaguar D. Saul had been frozen in ice by way of a move called Ice Time or Time Capsule, freezing a person like a cryogenic chamber, only to be unfrozen and awakened later on. I would imagine the heat or fires from the Buster Call on Ohara melted the ice. Just as Jaguar D. Saul spared Robin's life, Aokiji had mentioned to Robin after Annie's lobby that he wanted to see whether the decision of Saul to let Robin live was correct, that he wanted to see Robin's answer to that question. Just as Rayleigh told Robin to arrive at her own answer and conclusion about the history of the world, just as Monkey D. Dragon mentioned the world awaiting our answer. I wonder if there could be some connection, a deeper relationship between Aokiji and Dragon as well, why they each seem to be in search of an answer for this world they are in, an answer that pertains to the concept of justice maybe. There's a theory that Monkey D. Luffy is leading the pirates as Pirate King one day, Monkey D. Garp as the leader of Sword, and the rebellious Monkey D. Dragon as the revolutionary leader. But all factions are rebelling in their own way against the world government, defying the world with their own unique answer. Whether a pirate, a marine, or rebel, is Aokiji secretly aligned with the revolutionaries or Sword? Like Monkey D. Dragon, has Aokiji also started or joined a revolution of his own? Aokiji did, after all, spare the life of Robin, who is very important to Monkey D. Dragon in the coming revolution. And since Saul is connected to Aokiji, since Aokiji spared Saul's life, could Jaguar D. Saul also be a secret member of Sword? The books or literature of Ohara survived, and Saul and some other giants appear to have taken the books to Elbaf, which some think might be tied to Shanks, another crazy connection if true. And this forbidden knowledge is an act of rebellion in itself. As we see, Monkey D. Dragon in this flashback is also tied to Ohara, the birth of rebellion, of Dragon, of Aokiji, of Vegapunk, of the Revolutionary Army generally, and others out there in the world. Their actions of rebellion against the government seems to have really taken off after this event, the Ohara incident, especially since Vegapunk and Dragon have a personal relationship with Professor Clover. I'm also wondering if Goldie Roger also had a relationship with Clover, since Rayleigh makes mention of Ohara to Nico Robin during Saboti. Surely Roger knew of them as well. We still don't know everything that Roger was up to after he disbanded his crew. Dragon tells us that Jaguar D. Saul took the books to Elbaf, which suggests to me Egghead Island is like Zoe, and the next arc is Elbaf, just as Whole Cake Island came after Zoe. What do Elbaf and Whole Cake Island have in common? Big Mom. We saw Pudding in a recent chapter captured by Blackbeard and hint at Big Mom still being alive and maybe returning one day. I get the feeling a lot of forces, Marines, the government, pirates, revolutionaries, Yonkos will descend on Elbaf, especially given the remnants of Ohara's library having been relocated to Elbaf, and who knows what else is there. In terms of a great war or battle on Elbaf, it reminds me of the theory about Ragnarok, the battle of the gods, a battle to decide the fate of the world. Also, since we learned that Jaguar D, Saul, the Giant's captain, is covered in bandages, some are wondering if he is the man with the burned scar or the man marked by flames that Eustace Kid spoke of. Since cold temperatures and being frozen can cause frostbite and injuries akin to burns, akin to fire, does Saul know where the final rope poneglyph is? He should be large enough to move it himself as a giant, right? Or could the man marked by flames be somebody else entirely? That's still possible. But we are told that Saul is in hiding and no one will disclose his whereabouts. I think Elbaf, though, is a pretty good place to hide for a giant, but maybe he's somewhere else. I want to focus briefly, though, on the introduction of this younger Monkey D. Dragon as questions arise over who Dragon was before becoming the revolutionary commander. Some signs still point to him having either been an admiral or intelligence officer and so Cypher Pole agent in the past. I prefer an admiral or vice admiral, though. A marine like his father who rebelled against not just the world government later in life, but also maybe rebelled against his father Garp's wishes for him to be a good marine, and so the proper label of the rebellious dragon, a rebellious child, a brat like his son Luffy. But we don't know if this is the case. Dragon is missing his signature tattoo or mark on his face as well, but we do see it included as a symbol on his leg, hinting that it means or represents something important, as it is the same or similar to what is on Shimotsuki Ryuma, an interesting connection because of Monkey D. Dragon and Ryuma the Dragon Slayer's parallel, both having dragon in their titles or names. The world government celestial dragons are Monkey D. Dragon's enemy, Monkey D. Dragon, the will of D, the sworn enemy of the gods, and we know the world government and pirates were enemies of Wano, or had attacked Wano in the past, that Ryuma fought them in the past as well. And so Ryuma fought off his enemies, the celestial dragons, and even actual dragons that could be considered gods as well if you want to interpret it that way. Something that I mentioned earlier though about rocks D. Xebec does stand out to me now, and I know the community is full of these theories out there, but I'm still not too sure of their connection. But the appearance of Vegapunk is mentioned by Dragon, how he could spot him from a mile away. What if Dragon's own appearance is important because, or given the striking resemblance that he has with rocks D. Xebec? Yes, a silhouette for now, so we don't know what Xebec really looks like. Again, Clover and the researchers of Ohara labeled as someone who tried to destroy the world is unbelievable in Vegapunk's words. That must be some information manipulation by the government. So no different maybe than Rocks D. Xebec, and maybe some information manipulation as it pertains to his reputation. Dragon had once tried to recruit Vegapunk, but he declined at the time. Dragon's contempt for government lapdogs is clear, which ties into his father Garp, refusing to be a lapdog by refusing the admiral title. And it reminds me of Akainu's hatred of Dragon, as Fleet Admiral Akainu is himself the red dog, the lapdog of the world government. Maybe the hatred or disdain is mutual between these two. Dragon used to have a much smaller and poorer army called the Liberation Army, and the Ohara incident enraged him so much that he then created the Revolutionary Army, alongside Ivankov and Bartholomew Kuma, an army that shocked the world, it is said. It would seem Dragon had learned as a younger man that a pacifist cause for freedom was not enough. One doesn't beg to be free, they fight for it. And so revolution became the new cry, the new name, much to the surprise of Dragon, who apparently used to despise violence. Dragon's original utterance of a dream to one day change the world, that he would not allow the death of Clover and the will of Ohara to go in vain. And if you didn't know, the name of Dragon's ship, the Wind Grama, is associated with the Cuban Revolution. Dragon's favorite food is associated with Cuban dishes, and his personality is said to be tied to the Cuban revolutionaries, such as Fidel Castro, his brother Raul Castro, and Che Guevara, these revolutionaries who sought to overthrow an oppressive government. Also, it's pretty clear from this panel that Ivankov and Kuma now replaced by Sabo, are the wings to Dragon in his revolutionary army as commanders, as Sanji and Zoro are to Luffy as commanders to the future Pirate King. But we end out the chapter with Vegapunk, who seems to be working on some space-time technology so he can warp or teleport people, maybe. I wonder if this could be used to send the Straw Hats to another island. Vegapunk's appearance, his shrunken head, how it's smaller than it was in the past in this flashback, might be attributed to his old age, since we lose our intelligence or wits as we reach a certain point of being old, I guess. The brain degenerates after all. Or it could be because Vegapunk split himself up into different bodies or machines, thereby reducing his brain mass as it was, or as his intelligence was spread around. I also wonder if there's a way to reverse any of this. Vegapunk then tells us that he knew Dragon's son would come. Again, a genius that can see into the future, as well as the past, given what we now know about the legacy of Ohara enduring in Vegapunk's mind. as well as elsewhere. But as usual, we will have to wait and see. Also, Joyboy Theories, a friend of mine, is dropping a book that in my opinion is on the level of Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter, all those other series out there that became legendary when finally discovered. The name of Joyboy's book is The Booms, and yes, this is Volume 1. There will be other volumes. I got to read this rough draft of Volume 1 and 2, and I can vouch that the book is incredible. My honest review, he didn't ask me to do this, I just wanted to share the news with you. And you can pre-order his book digitally on Kindle or request a hard copy or paperback from Barnes & Nobles. It will be available to read in November. Don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click that notification bell. And if you have a Twitter, feel free to give me a follow on there as well. As always, there is more to come. Until next time.